Okay.
Interaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm far away.
That's what you get when you have me set up the tables, is I put too many in.
No. You should keep it in.
Yeah. Pardon me for putting the tables together. I put too many in. Yeah, my bad. So what happens when you put me in charge of table setup. Yeah, elbow room. Ready to roll? All right. Boy, that was quick. For 3 days before the school year's done. Hello, hello, and welcome. Sent the agenda today. You also have a copy of it. So just so our audience members can also know, we've got, we'll finalize the agenda with some changes. I've got some state and national updates. We want to look at tentative agreement considerations and to finish those off. if we can. Other remaining article responses, look at our future dates and then look at the next meeting agenda. The reverse side of that, which I also sent today, has where we've been with the different articles. And so it has in that, the ones that we TA'd earlier, the ones that have 2 check marks on them are ones that we will look to hopefully tentatively agree to today. The other ones with some yellow are ones that, were still outstanding going back and forth. The words in them have probably changed since I started it and did my cryptic language, but it just means there's something that we're still talking about. So anything else we need to have on the agenda? Okay. So looking at state national, which changes every day. The state school fund budget that has moved forward right now in the legislative session is a lot more hopeful than it was last time. It's gone through currently at the 11.36 or $11.4 billion. There was the possibility when we met last time that that may decrease down to 11.1, but the budget that actually has started its way through the progression of final approval is still at 11.36. So there's goodness in that. The possibility of information on the special education cap, the word is that it will likely be unchanged in the current session. Part of it is no money, but the other part of it is just we realize we need to do something, but we're not quite sure what we need to do and how at this point from a state level. So any money that I think we get in special education will go to high cost disability before it will go to increasing the special ed cap at this point in time. Our local option levy equalization grant, we still don't know what's happening there. And although we don't bargain on these extra funds, we have the federal Every Student Succeeds Act title programs. That's our Title I. It is migrant ed, of which we don't have migrant students, but we're a part of a consortium with Willamette ESD. It's the English language development, which we're in a consortium with Lane ESD. It's Title II professional development money, and Title IV is kind of an innovative project-esque sort of a program. We know right now that we will have for 25-26 a Title I allocation. Title II, we don't know, which is the professional learning. Title IV, we don't know. There's nothing in the budgets at this point. And that's Title IV is the special projects. And it appears at this point that Title I-C, which is migrant education, and Title III, which is English language development, will not be funded at all. Those are completely federally off the table. So we continue to watch those. We don't get, well, because we don't have migrant students, we're with Willamette, but we don't access anything from that. The thing that we'll need to take a look at is any of the resources, which is primarily professional learning that Lynn Kwai gets from Lane ESD for English language development. And there's a wonder if that group may find a way to try and stay together. Just to be able to support each other, even if there's no funding to be able to make that through. So that's what we know right now. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Contrary hearing? Okay. All right, then we can jump into the packet that I gave you. Has to do with our articles that I believe we're set to tentatively agree. I do have clean copies of each of them for signature. So for instance, when you look at the status of the agreement, article number 1, in the copy you have, there's still a yellow highlight with a crossed out temporary, which is what we said we're going to take temporary out of this. The copy that we've signed for tentative agreement, I took all the colors and the strikes out. So if we wanted to sign a clean copy as opposed to the highlighted copy. So we got that. So Article 1 was the first one that we talked about tentatively agreeing. The only change within that we've talked about is we talked about in the district adding the word temporary to the list excluded from the unit membership. PEA said we want temporary to stay there. We agreed, and so temporary shows crossed out. Article number 2 of management rights, there were never any changes in that. That one you didn't get a copy of. Because some of the ones that we didn't make any changes to, there were never any markups in management rights because we never changed anything in it. Somehow it just got missed in the process of being able to move forward in the world of the technical agreements. So I didn't even put it in there. Article number 6, layoff and recall. The agreement that we had made was to take the calculation chart out and everything else remained the same. Let's see, article number 8, staff evaluation. The primary changes are in B, for instance, it says that the district shall follow its evaluation handbook in evaluating, it said teachers. I just changed that to licensed bargaining unit members to keep some of the language consistent. And so that's what you'll see as really all of the changes, with the exception of in I, we took out who receive a change of status notice. Because I don't think any of us could come up with what a change of status notice was. And so that was the verbiage we took out. Keep going. 11, dues and payroll. The only piece of that was on the reverse side of the page. That talked about the paychecks will be issued to licensed staff members by direct deposit to the bank or credit union of the licensed staff members choosing. In the case of extenuating circumstances, paper check will be issued. So that's all that was the language about direct deposit and the ability to issue paper checks. The Article 15 was supplemental retirement. That we went back to the way that it was in the earlier agreement. We didn't change the dates or anything else like that, so it wasn't as confusing. The only other piece that we had put in there the last time was moving the piece about work after retirement or the employment of retired licensed staff members to Article 28, vacancies and transfers. It really doesn't have, it's not about supplemental retirement. And so it was just taking that article wholesale and moving it over to Article 28. That was the suggestion. If you look at, let's see, it's the third page in the front side. It says insurance employees shall select one of the following 2 options. Option A, the district shall contribute up to, we moved that to 1,200. In the version that PEA put forward last time, it still said 870. I got in touch with Jason. Jason said the 1,200 was what we talked about, so that's why the change is in there. So this should read like it was before. And Article 26, classroom enrollment. The only change on that was in the end of that first paragraph. There was a statement that said all references to timelines in Article 27, but the articles have shifted and moved. And so we just took that out of there. So those are the things that we believed could be ready to be brought forward to approve. And we can take time to caucus if you want to and go through them, or if you're ready, we can keep moving or however we want to do.
So we have all of these articles in our packet for response.
Oh, okay.
And so, and we think we're ready to TA hopefully on all of them. I think we have a couple of things that may be different, but we want to get that done. So when we walk through that, we can give that to you, but Article 1 is ready. We just have the clean proposal in there, so.
Yeah, and like I said,
Be signed off on today. The Article 6, the layoff and recall, that's exactly the same in ours. That's ready to be signed off. Article 11, is the same, it's ready, the dues and payroll, that's ready to be signed off. Classroom enrollment 26 is the same, so we've got at least. 4 there that are definites that we would hope to get done today. I think that we're really close, but there's some differences that we'll go over when we get our packet along with the other articles. One of them is in Article 8. We're just using different, we're using licensed employee, because that is the term that is used most frequently throughout the contract. We're catching
Yep.
places where there's, stuff that needs to be updated, but, while we're trying to do that, we want to like start moving to the most consistent term
Yeah,
that's
and that-
used there. So licensed employee is there more than bargaining unit member, and
Okay.
so that's gonna be one, so hopefully you can take that back and talk about that when we get that part of that, but that could be one of it. We don't really have anything substantively beyond that, because we're all in agreement on who received a change of status notice being taken out. And then in 15, you're right, the only difference when we get to that part is our proposal is that, I think we had talked about this before, just the preference, even though that it does make sense, but to keep the Article 28 vacancy and what you are proposing to move vacancies and transfers, to just keep that in there for the next 2 years, because at that point, we're gonna be able to get rid of the whole.
Get rid of the supplemental
So,
requirement.
So that, I mean, that's really, I mean, I think it's if you're insistent that you want to move it, then we can talk about that and we'll have to take that back, but if you're ready to just leave it there, then that would be a TA as well, so we're gonna pass this out, and Nicole and everybody else can start taking the lead on that, but just so that you know when you see that,
Okay.
that's in there, and one of the things, just to be clear up front from where we're coming from, is we're hoping that we'd actually get those signed off on, you check them off, take them off the list so that we know completely what remains.
We're in full agreement on that one. Thank you.
Like Jason said, we've already talked about Article 1 and Article 6. And Article 8. And 11, so I'm just jumping through.
Oh, you're good.
Wow. So I think it's 12 where we're starting off.
Can I just,
Yeah.
in Article 8, if it's all gonna be changed to licensed employee, then B needs to be changed as, or sorry,
Oh, yeah.
EA and EB and the paragraph after, they all say bargaining unit member.
Okay.
It would just be to change it to
Yeah.
licensed employees to match the rest.
Good catch.
Nice job, Erin.
That's why we're 2 pairs of glasses.
And I mean, if we do caucus today, we can easily make those changes and come back. Thanks, Manny. So Article 12, we're responding to, we have in there UCD, where the district and association recognize the education involves educational professional obligations outside of school. This is in response to, the idea of having additional evenings. And, I'll be honest with you, especially after graduation week, almost convocation, graduation, baccalaureate, many parties. That's a hard one to we're just gonna go on. And that's just in this week, but, and then if you turn the page, we have under F. Again, change of the language of the licensed employees. And, you'll see that additional part there.
That should be your exact
Uh,
proposal for that.
for
That was the outdoor school. Yep.
Yeah. That we are okay with. And then on H, we have the special education case managers, which we have talked about it as a group and there was definitely like an agreement that that this is in no way reflective of what Kelsey is doing. She's doing a fabulous job and everybody's very happy. There's just some information that we feel more comfortable having in the contract as far as moving forward.
So one of them is, just recognizing in H2A, working collaboratively to address any concerns of scheduling and IEP meetings. Another one that is really important to case managers is that meetings are not scheduled before school without our express consent. If I have an IEP meeting at 7:30, I am arriving sometimes at 6:45, depending on whether or not Synergy is willing to print my documents for me the afternoon before. So a meeting that doesn't start and be ready to go at 7:30 without us being here before our contracted time. So we just want to make sure that special education teachers kind of have a right to refuse that.
Article 5, oh, go ahead. No, yeah,
I think it's just important to note on this one, so we took a lot of the specifics that were in our previous proposal out, because you had responded with, I'm just paraphrasing.
That's
but
okay.
Good ideas, but we would prefer not to have them in a contract. And so, as Shelley mentioned, like, we had kept a couple of the things specifically in here, like that, meetings before the workday language in there, because those are important and worth noting. But we did remove a big chunk of those. And in exchange for, in our idea, this collaboration process between the association and the district, and I think this is part of the risk, and it comes up from our end later on in one of our other proposals, that we're willing to accept that there are some things that may not be specific in the contract, but we want to be working together on that, elaborating that. So like we want to, when we talk about these concerns about scheduling and implementation of IEP, we took some of those specifics out. Some of those things that you said were good ideas, and so we would like to be able to come back and be able to have some follow-up meetings in which people can come out of it and be speaking the same language about what happens with IEP meetings and scheduling the commitment, and that being consistent. So, from our end, it's easier for us to just propose all of these specific limitations in there, because then that would speak to all that. But we've taken those out in exchange for what we're hoping for, a commitment to let that work continue, that, our special ed folks have indicated that they appreciate some of the collaboration that they've had with the districts so far this year and want to build on that. So that's where that's coming from.
thank you, Catherine. So 15, we've already talked about. So we were on the same page of having that ready to go. So 16, again, we talked about the Fulham Academy being added into section B, then the secondary B, we were good. And then on the back, we feel strongly about the incentives. We understand that there might be a different way to look at that, and we're open to any ideas that the district might have for that. But until we kind of hear a different idea, we are going to leave the incentives in there. And then we have the sick leave benefits there that you can see that we talked about before.
These should be the same language that these proposed.
Yeah.
We should be on the same page with that.
And then 17 on other leaves, we also have that information. I'll go for it.
So one of the questions I had, because we brought this one forward too, you want to keep the language of sabbatical leave.
Yes.
Okay, we had taken it out, we could go either direction, but you'll see when we share, it is crossed out in what we've got, but most of that was, I'm not sure what the answer was, and so that's why you see it that way.
Thank you. And then the leave of absence, a licensed employee on extended unpaid leave, would notify the district for the intent to return no later than March 15th, and then just a couple of changes there with the licensed employees. We have the donated leave in there, which we had discussed and had
The MOU,
with that.
okay,
The policy handbook, I'll go for
The
you.
only, just to clarify that one, so the only difference here, but the leave of absence language, we should be exactly the same on. We have the licensed employee clarification, the donated leave, you should be exactly on, your last proposal had a section, the donated leave was in D and was in C. You had a proposal around unpaid leave and notice. That we're not accepting in there, so.
okay, and we have another thought on the unpaid leave also.
And then the policy handbook, last time that the district had, discussed that the ideas were good ideas, but not sure if it belonged in the bargaining units, my brain is, contract. But this is something that I think we shared last time of how important to have these pieces in place. And we would love to partner with the district, and I think we talked about that before, of developing a team that would make this a collaborative effort to create this policy handbook. And we would love that, because we know that these are areas that really need to be addressed, and we want to make sure that we're really setting our new staff in the best position possible when they're off and running in the district. And so instead of, it's hard enough coming into a district, trying to teach and teach under a different area, especially if they're new teachers, to fight these certain things, or trying to find out information on their own. So this is something that, and you've also probably noticed that we've scaled it down. And so we still would like to have this in the contract. But if you really want to be a part of that decision-making process and willing to work with the district on making.
And we have some information to bring back also on this one. When you said the creation of the policy handbook,
Just more of like, if the district would like a team of members of not bargaining members, of teachers to be a part of that process, to help find out where those gaps are, that we can assist with that too, as far as.
okay, so we're not talking about creating a policy.
No.
handbook. Okay, I
Because we talked last time of like, it's very difficult on the district side to really know what's being missed in some of those areas, because it's just that you're not sitting in the teacher's position. And so we would love to help that of what would be best and what would be helpful for teachers, especially new staff. So if we could be a part of that, of either updating it and providing information, but these are things that we really would like to be a part of that process.
thank you for the
You
clarification.
bet.
This one's trying to build on, it's been several years now, but we started a while back a program where we were bringing mentors in from the association, working collaboratively with district was paying like for related to, oh, this new hire is at Clemens, so we're gonna, the PEA is gonna identify a mentor that will show up on the new orientation day.
And that still happens.
Yeah, that still happens,
Yeah.
right? And so what we were imagining here is, I mean, this is a kind of a brainstorm in process, like a possible like that would be that as part of that process again, like we did that same thing, that those individuals could help deliver as part of that day. Like I don't know what the time would be to set aside, but let's say that they're as part, you go over a lot of those things, but as part of that, in that orientation, these key things would be covered. We don't have to, we took all the specifics out, but we would talk about those things and then our members who are there could help with delivery of that content or plan or the training or whatever that could go along with that. Right?
Yeah, and we've
If you have
got,
specific people that you're like, we think this person would be good for that, we would be open to it. We just. It's like, we feel like these are the minimal things that need to be covered. That we need to update that process on, but we would like to build on what we were doing and just maybe, make it a little bit more effective or timely with these issues and partner. Up on that, so we stepped away from trying to dictate. Everything must be this way to be like, okay, let's cover these things, but the real. Need of it is in that first paragraph where we're saying, let's continue the process of what we were doing to pay some mentor people to be there, but let's help. Them train or present on some of these topics, be specific about it, so, we're going over technology, distribution and equipment, and we've got a member that is. An expert on that, like, let's bring them in, help them be a part of that training.
We have the same on Article 26, I believe. It's ready. We have some minor adjustments to the Article 28. I think, the district had come back with the removal of the town ed, which that makes sense. And then just some minor tweaks on the interview committee. So we still would like to be a part of that process and be invited to that process. Obviously not required to participate, but, and hopefully that they would be able to provide, input and offer suggestions and not every, I think, and this is sometimes done on the district side, but that invitation is extended and not everybody has to be 100% in the interview room. It could be, going through resumes or being part of that. There's sometimes two different teams that are involved with that. But, especially when it's a certain subject matter and there might be quite a few different teachers that everybody would need extend an invitation, but it doesn't mean that everybody on it has to be in the room or being involved with it.
Yeah.
On one side or the other.
I remember last time you mentioned, like, we can't, if it's a K-5 pool, we can't have 4 kinder, 4 first, 4 second, and that wasn't the intention behind it. It was just that every potential group is a part of that, right? So, like, if it's a K2 position, like, the K2 teachers are invited, that doesn't mean they're all gonna be a part of it, or that they're even required, but it's just.
And it could be just saying that the invitation's open, so you
Yeah,
guys
the
can
size
work
down,
out.
yeah,
as
I don't
well.
know, participate.
And then as far as the school safety, Article 31, this is still a huge concern of ours. It's a big topic of ours. So you'll see that we're hoping that there's still going to be some maintaining of some protocols. Communication needs to be tightened up with the district, between the district and the teachers. And that will maintain an active safety committee from day one of school starting. Looking at those protocols, understand that things need to be changed, but in order to refine and change things, they actually have to be put in place. And so we really need to have that information. And there also is again some minor language changes for licensed employees. And you'll see it. There's also an area included the documentation of the dangerous situations, threat assessments and protocols that needed in that one too. This is something that we've explained that the members are, they feel more secure and, safe when they feel like the district has taken their needs seriously and the students' needs seriously. And that something relaxes the mind, knowing there's a process to follow behind. And even as of this week, there's been issues that have arisen and at different buildings, and so it continues to be a need that is growing. And then last week, we forgot to include this last little piece on there too. And so I just want to make sure that everybody sees that we have the facility security access as well, that all facilities in the district will have lockable exterior doors. I know that they're still working on that, making sure that everything and key distribution is going around and everything. But that way staff has access to every area that they need. And that all doors are lockable and secured.
I'm gonna pause for a minute, see if our folks have any questions, or if, do we wanna? We can go over our stuff, or we can caucus at this point to put some of these to bed, hopefully. What's our pleasure?
Make it more efficient to present what we got,
Okay.
language, and then that way when we talk, we can always.
And you'll hear some of the same things. Thanks, Steve. Okay, we had Article 12, that I did not print for you. You get what you need? Oh, okay. Just with a couple of things that we were waiting on. Thank you. There were a few things that we put in 12 that we just wanted to make sure of where we were at. Sorry, I'll try and remember the whole punch. I know, that's the way it works.
Oh my.
So
Even ever heard yet.
we had put in that one on number 4, about the staff, we agreed the no staff or other required meetings will be held on the conference days. We added extra the district and association recognize that education involves occasional professional obligations outside the school day, which you'd had. Apart from providing required preparation period, lunch and break, time may be utilized for student contact, school or district meetings, communication with parents and students, and or class preparation. That was an add. And then we had the employees may be required to participate in the 3 unpaids. The outdoor school we agreed on. And maybe you answered how you feel about them by not stating them.
I'm sorry, Susan. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
can I stop you? Cause I don't see.
I didn't print Article 12. I didn't print it because what we were waiting for was information about, there were some things we put in here that,
Sorry, I missed that. piece.
sorry, we just didn't know. So that was that one. Article 13, now we'll go to something I know you have.
Yes.
No, you're good. That, let's see. did you give us 13?
No.
Last
No.
time,
Okay.
they gave it to us last time.
So we came back with that, on the number one, school administrators will provide licensed employees with a written student discipline procedure at the beginning of each year and include time for school-wide review. Staff input shall be required in the development and revision, we took out the word annual, of student discipline procedures. They're not the policies, they're the procedures. Finalized procedures are determined by, we changed building principal to administration. We did that because there are some things that Kelsey will help determine. There are some things that I will help determine. And so with a building principal, we need to be able to open the door on that one. The written student discipline procedure specifies circumstances under which an administrator or designee may remove a student. We did the his, her shifts. The written student discipline procedure shall, we took out also, require that incidents are documented in the student information system. We took out, and that wrap back communication to reporting teacher, homeroom teacher shall occur when one of their students is issued a referral by another staff member. With Synergy, it is our belief that if the student is yours, you can see information about that student. So even if somebody else puts in a referral, you should be able to have access to that information.
What if our referrals go through Synergy?
That's a good thing I need to know, because they all should be going through Synergy.
But, and then there's, the wrap back communication doesn't show up in Synergy. There is no slot for that.
And not every admin responds at the same time. So some admin will respond quickly and take care of the disciplinary issue and it's posted.
And some
Others
others
just, it sits for a little bit.
Okay.
or a lot, or never.
Okay. Student handbook will be posted, which by the way, they all are right now, on the district website and shared with licensed staff. We're putting them together now. And we're working on them now. We took out any changes to behavior policies will be communicated to staff prior to changes being shared with students and families. But you're gonna get shared with you at the in-service. And then they're gonna get posted beyond that. So the intent is we're not gonna maliciously put something out and share it with families before it's shared with staff.
But that's what happened with cell phones.
Right.
It was shared with the paper before it was shared with staff. There was never even all year long, not one single email went out that the district policy was changed to staff members. That it was put in the
It
paper.
was publicized first.
All right. The F licensed employees will be notified of students entering their class or currently enrolled in their class with individualized discipline or behavior plans. We know that there are times that first of all, it's not legal for us to keep a student out of a general education setting in all instances. We just flat can't do it. What we took out was, the physical intervention tactics that are identified in the behavior or discipline plan. Prior to the student's entry into the classroom, what we agreed to was to be able to say temporary support will be provided until that training can occur. So it's not like we're gonna wanna leave people high and dry. So that was an addition for consideration, was to be able to add some support until that training could occur. And then K was just the same thing that we had talked about before, was just taking out just making it specific to adhering to the guidelines within current ORS, but not putting in the specifics of each of the ORSs. Paid leave 16, we agreed to the Philomath Academy. We had the same thing under the incentives. Is there any new option to consider? So we were asking the same question you're asking. We'll have to go back and compare the language about the accumulated sick leave benefits for PERS, that's just something we'll need to look at. Sabbatical leave, I told you it would be crossed out in here. We don't really care one way or the other about how that plays out and whether or not that's in. And then we're waiting to see, and maybe you responded by not talking about it, that under the partial day leave, when an employee requests reasonable access to leave, non-recurring specialized appointments, in the existing contract, it says for less than a half day. That we made that change to one class period. And just want to see where the PEA team is at on that. Under 17 other leaves. Same thing with you, the intent. When we talked about short-term unpaid leave, the other idea, Jennifer did some reach out. That wasn't about insurance, but in this particular situation, under certain circumstances, an employee has the responsibility to pay for the substitute expenses. So in this instance, it says when an employee, I didn't put it in this because it's an idea. When an employee has exhausted all individually earned leave types, the employee may make a request for leave without pay to the superintendent, who will consider the request. This was an MOU, shall not apply to those circumstances referenced for paid family medical leave or FMLA or OFLA. The employee will not be required to pay for a substitute for leave without pay due to illness, extended bereavement, or illness of a family member. The district may request documentation to substantiate the employee's need for leave. The employee will be required to pay for a substitute only under the conditions that a substitute was needed with no reasonable alternative to the district. Let's see, except those that would unreasonably and negatively affect the district's operations and the substitute was used. Repayment may be deducted from future earnings.
Where did this idea come from?
It came from another district that has actually implemented. And what they've done to be able to start to combat some of the unpaid leave is to say, we know we've got people who are sick. We know we've got people with families who kids get sick and things like that, or the notion of extended bereavement. And we don't want to do that. But we also know in a lot of districts, we've got some people that are just taking unpaid leave days. It adds up.
Yeah, did we determine it was a lot?
All depends on what you mean by a lot, but it's certainly more in the last, 2 or 3 years than it's ever been.
And it's not specific to one bargaining group. That's what I wondered, if like our group here tonight, or it's across all of somebody. Okay.
So it was just another idea, because, when I floated the initial idea, it was about, it has to do with insurance. And it's kind of like, that would be a hard one to manage and it would be a tough one to deal with. But it's kind of like, we're just trying to find a way to be able to get some ideas out of, how do we start to, how can we start to combat the unpaid leave notion?
To clarify, are you proposing that idea?
I was just throwing out an idea to be able to say if there's interest, we'll craft the language around it. I'm just trying to come up with something that helps to manage that idea. And if people say, hey, that might be something, let's flesh it out a little bit and see what it looks like, we will. I didn't want to take the time to flesh it all out if it was going to be knocked off the table from the get-go.
Well, in order for us to talk about it, can we at least see what you've got, or on paper?
Yeah, I wouldn't see a problem with seeing what they've got at all. So we can add that. We went with Article 18, insurance. Right now, we're holding at the $65,000 in the pool and the opt-out at 350. Is our response with that. Compensation, which is another article I did not share with you.
Susan, could you talk about L?
Oh,
You just brought it up.
district will offer long-term disability insurance as part of the overall insurance package. The district will cover the cost of the long-term disability insurance. It had said up to the level of the insurance cap. After talking to Jennifer, we reached the decision that said the district will cover the cost of the long-term disability insurance, period, end of story. So it
In
doesn't,
this scenario, it wouldn't come off your insurance cap first,
right,
how we've been calculating it. for years. It would just be a covered cost.
thank you.
Jennifer, what's the monthly cost for that?
It's been a composite rate for years where it's been about $15 a month. And they're going away from composite rates for going forward. So everybody will just have a rate based on their salary. So it will be between 10 and 20 probably per person now.
The
per
higher-
month.
Higher the salary, the higher the rate.
Is it like 0.2% of their salary?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Compensation, we didn't come back with a whole lot different. We're looking at I know you came back last time to stay at 6%, and the notion of also extending that offer to the co-curricular schedule of 6%. I didn't have the opportunity to get together how far behind our coaches are from other districts. If we give them the same 6%, it's great, but we need to remember that they're not getting a step either. And so they never have the opportunity to catch up with the other people in co-curricular salaries around the state. We still passed on the dual degree and have information in about the degree. We're still looking at the notion of national board certification. The idea is intriguing and it's a good thing. I did look up that the initial cost is $2,600 and the renewal is $500, and it looks like every 5 years. There is, at least for right now, a federal fee subsidy that would be available to be able to help offset some of the expenses. We need to look at where we are with professional learning money to be able to do that, because we know we have an obligation to be able to pay for university credits. And so we want to make sure that we're not taking ourselves entirely out of the game. But we also believe that we're not going to have 45 people that immediately want to run after and do a national board certification. You know, that it's a heavy enough weight that it's not going to be we don't think the whole teacher corps that's going to go after a national board certification, but it's just kind of getting an idea of who and how and where we want to go with that. But it certainly is not off the table. And then everything else, I think, is the same. We did make an adjustment with some of what we knew, which is very modest. But we went to, in compensation, a 3-5-3-5. So 3-5 first year, 3-5 second year.
You didn't give that to us, though, right?
I didn't. That was really the only pieces of it.
That's a proposal, though. You're saying that's right now? 3-5-3-5?
Yes. We also went back through in Article 20, the new teacher orientation components of that. And you will see on the state, or if I think it might be stapled, you will see a template for a new employee in service. So once we came away from the bargaining last time, we met with our administrators, we met with our district office staff, and took into account the things that were listed in how we do business. Yesterday, Donnell put out to principals and office managers a new key distribution protocol. That doesn't have to wait for the signed from the school of who needs what key and all kinds of things like that. So once the hire is made through Talent Ed, when that comes through, that gives Donnell the permission to automatically start to generate key card and get ready for key issue and be able to do that. So we believe that that will speed up the process of both key card and key issue from the get-go. We don't know that it would be, you know, a scavenger hunt of sorts, but the idea would be that on that new employee in-service day, we've got people who can get their keys, their name tags, they can meet with the administrator at their school to look at their alarm system instructions. We can talk about supervision and evaluation. I put this in here because it's also wanting to be real clear that we can have multiple individuals involved in observation, and typically it's a single individual that's involved in the evaluation. So it's just kind of knowing a lot of voices can have input through observation. The evaluation is typically put together by a person. The where am I at the end of that was really about being able to get folks to branch out and meet and find student services, facilities, technology, nutrition services, and to kind of get a lay of the land of the campus. At 9:30, we would start with the typical nuts and bolts of the new employee handbook that's always been shared in that session. At 10:45, or well, roughly, we would look at having technology come and be able to make sure that everybody has all their new logins and that kind of information. We would close off our district time, have lunch. The afternoon with the mentors for the remainder of the day would be in schools of their choice. Excuse me, we've also asked the tech team to stop by the classroom of each individual in the time in the afternoon to be able to make sure not only that they can log in, but can be with them in their classroom to be able to make sure that the technology works within their existing classroom. So that when somebody stops by in that afternoon, you might be able to log on fine in Nicole's lab first thing in the morning to be able to get access to your email, but you hook it up to your new line in your classroom and it doesn't work. That time in the afternoon in the actual classroom is a way of being able to make sure that things are set up and working for our new staff as they come through. So just a couple of things, and this isn't done by any means and isn't etched in stone, but we really felt like it was important to bring forward the hearing of and the intent of the ideas and what needs to happen. We always know that there will be problems if we have somebody that goes on medical leave right away and we have a sub coming in the next day. We can't get them keys, we can't, I mean, those are the anomalies that it's not like every day when you have 5 or 10 or whatever new people that are coming in that need. But we do know that some of those, or people that start after the first of the year, that's always been a real difficult thing, which is one of the reasons we talked about the keys, was at least if we can clean up that process and be able to get keys issued, we have a better shot for those people that are hired after the start of the school year. So anyway, we put that out there just as something to be able to say, we want you to know that we are hearing and wanting to be able to put forward information. So
paid time for the mentor, whoever that mentor is.
like it's always been, yeah. Yep. So 28 vacancies and transfers. And we're gonna need to talk about the involvement in the hiring process. It sounds like you would like to keep Article 15 and Article 15 as far as the working after retirement. Preparation time, Article 29. I don't know what happened with that. Because there were the two teachers in grades 6 through 12 provided equivalent of one class period. Teachers in grades K5 shall be provided 30 minutes or 150 minutes per week. we added in licensed staff shall not have required student supervision responsibilities during their preparation period or lunchtime. And this is just sat. And so it's kind of like, we might be ready to do something with another one. And when I was looking through it today, it was kind of like, So, that's just something to put out there. School safety, what did I pull together? Because I'm trying to listen for, the scope of what we're talking about. And I've mentioned it before, and you know, we've had dysregulated students, and then we've had, most specifically, not the only things, but dysregulated students and, community family threats as kind of the biggest things. We had, another issue that took place when, some staff members were doing some walkthroughs in a school. And, there was concern about what were the people doing in our school. So now all of a sudden, there's another piece of that safety window, that I want to make sure that we're addressing and pulling in it all. When you talk about a student threat assessment and the inclusion of that, we have a level 1 protocol, and we've had it for a couple of years. And so is it just a matter of being able to, I mean, not just a matter, but I think there are some pieces of information that I am also now putting together that we have in place. And so it's kind of like, if this is the piece of the puzzle that we want with threat assessment, we've got that. We do have a policy in KK on visitors to district facilities, that talks about disruptive people on campuses. And so there are some things that we do have.
Is that in our handbook?
Yeah, policy KK is
The district policy.
it's a district policy.
But the parts that you want to strike, from what I understand, is everything that has to do with communicating to staff.
The thing, we want to be able to look at something like that, but we have to be careful of all the, what I'll call the PAWs, the FERPAs and the HIPAAs and everything else like that.
But it's with the staff involved. So, I mean, everything that's striked out is anything that we've asked that communication. And we are not asking for privacy information to be cross that line. Please, let's make that clear. But anything that's asking for communication back to the licensed staff that's involved, that's being struck through. And just.
Which number on,
Article first paragraph.
okay,
Paragraph.
threat as well as communication process.
So we're suggesting, I'm gonna interrupt.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, yes, but that's not what the language says. It doesn't say, whether it basically infers all, when it says licensed staff, right?
Involved with the.
It doesn't say
It
involved.
doesn't say involving school and public safety.
Other incidents involving, so I guess.
But it doesn't say that, right? And so what we're looking at is who needs to know.
Oh,
That's not what it says, okay? And so we're bringing back language. We didn't add language. If you want to bring back language that's more clarifying of what your intent is, please do that.
fair.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I want to make sure that it's known that we're not asking for breaking of any kind of communication privacy laws at all, but.
Right, and so what we're finding in a lot of these things, we're talking about communication. What your proposed language many times is, it doesn't say that. Those that are involved, those that need to know, right? And so bringing back language that does have that will be more possible than the reference to all, even if it doesn't say all, but it says licensed staff, right? Then it's open to interpretation.
But I think you're kind of touching on our point of where the district is getting down to fine details of ways to not communicate with staff. And that's where you see multiple times in our recommendations is we want to know what's going on when it puts us at risk and our students at risk. And so I hear what you're saying, but our message is we want to have some communication feedback to us. We're in a void.
So we're asking.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like the
so let's
language
just end on that. What we're
Yeah,
asking is
yeah.
come back with language that's more clear on that, and then we can move forward.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Let's see, that was there also. Is 32 gone? Facilities?
I think that we were waiting for a response back. I think, the last time we met.
Yeah,
discussing
discuss that,
it,
it's in the
it was-
highlight on your last meeting, Susan. You didn't. We found it forward.
Okay, well, I didn't respond, if it's in writing, I didn't change the writing. But it's basically, there were a couple of things that I believe I mentioned at that point in time. And, the biggest one is, we can't close schools. The district gets to help decide how, instruction is delivered and things like that, and we're not gonna close schools if we have technology not available for a week's period of time. We've got to be ready to be able to help kids. The other piece of this, when I talked to the technology department, the first one said the district shall ensure functional internet access with a minimum 99% uptime during school hours. There are Fortune 500 companies that don't have that. And so, we want to be thoughtful about where that is. The other piece is that this one starts to really infringe on management right of being able to determine curriculum and how instruction is offered, and the way things are set up. So, this one to us begins to cross a line of really management right. So that's the comeback on that one.
We did present that last time. We did not get a response from you this time.
It's not in the papers. Of last time.
I didn't come back with a new written piece of information. No, this was way back from we didn't do it. When was it? It was May 28th, so it was the last time?
Yeah.
Okay, then it was.
Unless a page got left out.
It could have.
Have it in your packet.
No.
Okay, but I've got I've got the dates on it, but it may not have come, so. Yeah. I want to go back to the safety part of it because I'm really trying to wrap my head around how we need to be better at communicating the information, because we do have a level 1 threat assessment. The other thing that I know that we've got are, and some of you have seen the school emergency plan book from Lincoln County, that has things in it like a threat of violence. What are the protective measures? What are the notifications? And so the plan is to be able to do some work with that. We've had in the past, these are 2 different versions of safety manuals. Some of the stuff in the very old one really doesn't even, it doesn't apply in the same way anymore because we've outdated some of these things. But wanting to make sure that we have complete and secure and fully updated information to be able to move.
Safety manual, what's that dated?
This red folder is in every school, implemented in 2018. And it was the most recent one that Joey had, that he put in the,
Where
And
was
so
that
what is-
found in buildings?
I have no idea where that is in schools. I would say in the office,
Okay.
I mean,
but,
okay,
but, I am looking at it to be able to say, I found ours in the district office and it's 2018 and that's not up to date in any way, shape or form. So it needs to be done. I agree.
and if that's from Joey, I'm guessing that that's like chemical use and things like that. We're talking about threats to our physical safety, to the physical safety of other students.
And he's got some immediate threat or injury, possible threat of injury. So most of it is, most of it is, more facility based and things like
Right.
that. This is the one that really has more of
But that's
the,
linking.
right, but they've given it to us and we can't have it electronically, but we can turn it into ours. To be able to do some of the things we need to do.
But it's not currently in place.
Not for us, no. Because they wouldn't just give it to us, but there are things that I think are very relevant for us which is why I love it. So one of the sections in here, just to give you an idea, says threat of violence.
Well, I mean, so that's all work that has to be done, but I think that even this really demonstrates why we feel the need to have things in our contract. We don't currently feel safe, we don't currently feel heard, and things are moving very slowly. So now we have a non-digital form of another district's safety plan that we're going to implement at some point. Like, we have students making threats of violence, we have parents making threats of violence. At the primary school recently, there was a no trespass order that was lifted, and none of the staff were aware.
I
Then-
beg to differ with that.
Then the next week, there was another incident with the same family. This is the type of thing where the communication isn't happening to the people who are directly affected and directly involved.
There are pieces of that, I understand that. There are pieces of that you don't know. There are pieces of that you cannot know.
Absolutely.
And there were a couple of things that happened in that. We had a principal in the police department that agreed that that no trespass order should be lifted. It was lifted. I went over and had a conversation with the staff. I want to tell everybody here, everybody,
You had
just a
the
minute, just a minute, just a minute, just a
conversation
minute.
After.
Let me
it's
finish. I'll say the same thing I said to folks at Clemens that day, and I agree that we've got people that are scary, that we want to be able to watch out for. If someone is making you feel threatened, call the police. It's not the only answer, and I'm not trying to back out of responsibility for it. But I want to be able to tell everybody openly, do not be scared to do that. Do not be scared to make that call if you feel threatened. We need to be able to make sure things like that are happening. You have permission to be able to do that.
Then what's the follow-up from that?
What's the follow-up from what?
After I call the police because I feel unsafe. What are our policies and procedures to follow up with that parent or community member?
We're looking at visitors to district facilities. We're looking at the potential, or what was the police involvement? What happens with them?
But we currently have nothing in place. Which is why we're asking for it to be put in the contract.
What does this say?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I've
We don't know
never
what that
seen
is.
it.
So we're proposing new language. This is language we proposed to y'all. You got the language come back. We caucus. We talk about where we're at. We move forward tonight to what we can TA, and we continue to talk about language.
Yeah.
Okay, and so you've got our language. It's got a lot of what you're asking for. Maybe it's missing some pieces. We're asking for clarification.
That, I think that's great. I
Thank
think,
you.
Susan, do you have anything else you want us to go through with it?
No, I'm wanting to be very helpful. And very supportive. There are things that I know, there are things that I don't know. And you know, I want to be able to make sure that we're putting it together and doing it the right way. I hear that there is concern. And if I could tell you more, I would, but I
There's a new
can't.
concern at our building just yesterday too. So we can talk
Okay,
at a later time about that, but,
okay, thank you. Yeah, because there are sometimes I don't know.
right. And this is new.
My apologies. My apologies.
I think, we can all agree it's a topic.
Yep.
We feel passionately about it. That's fair. We know that it goes both ways with that and that you guys want the same things. And so, now it's just a matter of just finding
Yep.
common ground with it.
Yep,
So,
agreed.
Time to caucus.
Okay.
Do you guys have an idea, like,
It's 20 minutes to 6.
do you think we more than a half hour?
You know, I think it would be good for us to have the clean copies to sign off on. But that takes some time.
Yeah.
So. I think Phoebe will mention this too about that, I think.
I've got clean copies of the ones that we talked about.
Okay. If you wanna look at the, how about the,
15 and 8.
I thought we go, yeah, look at some of the low hanging fruit, like, is there a way that the evaluation article? If there's anything on that, is there a way that, to keep the transfer language? Does that have to do with the transfer language, that's gonna stay in the district supplemental retirement for another couple years, like? Those issues, I mean,
Yep.
if so, then we know that and we can work off of that, but I think that, you've given, this topic of the safety issue is one that, you know. We have to go back and dive into, you give us a response, and we look at that. I don't know if we're gonna be able to bring that one back in this time, but I think instead of just leaving. We should come back and sign off on, or if there's any other low hanging fruit, just give us, like, even if it's a verbal, like. We really want the transfer to continue, okay, we know where that stands. Otherwise, or we can do it, we've taken it out, let's do district supplemental. And sign off on as many as we can, and then. We can set that agenda for the next time, which I think is gonna include. One of these topics, obviously, the safety response.
Yep. All right.
You wanna, should we say, come back at 6:15 unless we hear otherwise? Where will you guys be?
I'm sorry, I was talking to Aaron.
We've been in there before.
You're gonna be in there?
Right.
We're gonna, we'll leave it available.
We'll be in Martin's room.
Or do we want to go
We'll
down
come
to the
back at
conference room?
6:15 unless you tell us otherwise.
I think we're.
Is that a good spot for Sue? We don't know.
That, that works. Does that work?
Okay, you're all back on video.
Your sweatshirt, it's making me wanna go to the beach.
There all day.
Oh, that's right, field trip day.
Unless my kid takes like German class, I think I'm done with field trips.
Well, you never know.
Oh no, or band.
All right. We, in our conversations, feel as if we are okay with Article 1 as the status of agreement. Article 2, management rights. Get my right pages here. 6, layoff and recall. 8, staff evaluation using the terminology that you had of, what was it? Licensed employee.
We cleaned that one up. Aaron did, I think, good, right? So there were a couple others, so we have that one, and sign off on.
Okay,
Do that.
11, dues and payroll were good. 15, supplemental retirement were good. The only thing on the copy that I have that I probably need to bring back is, let me check to see if the clean copy has
That moved to Article 28.
that crossed out or not.
415.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a clean copy, I have a copy rated. Yeah, if you want to.
okay, that has the,
Has everything intact.
okay,
Except, yeah,
and mine does not, so,
1200.
okay,
It would just keep all the other language.
exactly.
right, and so that, you've got the clean copy there. 26 classroom enrollment we're good with. And, we don't have the clean copy, but would be ready to take a look at, which one was it?
29,
29.
we created one.
Okay,
So
So we're fixing this language changes there.
okay. So all the ones that we had listed with tentative agreement consideration were good. Yeah,
That's 8, that's good.
Yeah.
Work. So. If we have them,
which ones?
You said you have
Yeah.
a article,
we have to.
no, we're good, we're gonna probably have to combine some.
That's fine.
So Article 1.
I've got one.
Copy with nothing on it.
I've got one.
Let's go with that, let's start there,
Okay, and I've got 2.
let's do that, yeah.
I just moved to where it's
Yeah.
easier.
You want my,
Oh, you're good, stay there.
sorry, it's like, you go, no, no.
Forgot to spell my last name. It's a student's last name.
Okay. And six,
I have six, oh. I'd rather make a quick copy. It has one on the front of it, so.
I've got six.
Oh, you have six, okay, perfect, even better.
Now, is six the one that needs the license and, no,
No, that's
And
8.
six,
That's
just
eight.
need to make
Okay.
sure that there's that one. It was just
Just
taking
to
this,
spoke out the former
Yeah.
one and.
yeah, that was it. And then I'll let you look at 8 while we sign this.
okay.
That's one of the finance meeting.
There are two places in 8 that Aaron raised. That we wanna make sure that,
And you can, feel free to. Thinking of that.
They were D, or so, excuse me, E, A,
A and D.
and the paragraph after. So if those have all been changed, then that was all I had noted.
Did you get them last evening?
the two that had been referenced were here, and here. And so however we can write those or do whatever, doesn't matter.
So this one.
Yeah, that we want,
Yeah, that's all I was doing this stuff.
Oh, yes, okay.
The other option is.
you can handwrite it.
Okay.
Whatever works.
I'm happy to go change it, but I can't put your printer. Here's 6.
I'll do my best. Back in the day, first grade teacher role.
I don't have to do it.
No one would be able to read what I wrote. They'd be like, the word workers, you don't want to sign up.
And then I'm gonna give you 15 here. Susan the stop, underneath it, that you can pass.
Did you have 11? I do if you don't.
That'd be great, you have 11. And then I'm gonna hand the 29 as well.
And I got 26. And what did you do, something?
The one that this takes out. Reference that on 27.
Right, right.
You did a great job with that.
Thank you.
I've been falling into that gig 50 years ago.
Well, this one, yeah. Did we sign up on two? That's the one I didn't hear you say.
Yeah, they signed up on two.
Did we?
Did we sign up?
I don't know if you did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or you stay copies.
Because we just want to leave that to the very end.
Nope, we did.
Okay.
We did one and two.
Okay.
One and
One or
two.
two
So we
together.
have one,
You're not gonna give up all your minutes, right?
I don't have any.
8. Then 15.
You have 11.
And, 11,
And
26 and 29. Like 8 of them signed, so. If that matches.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'll make copies and move them along.
Nine, 10 left.
Cool. We've got some of the other ones that we wanted to get through these.
we're in agreement with that.
Yeah.
We want to talk a little bit more in depth about the other ones too, so we agree with that.
So we're at Clemens next week.
We're at Clemens next week.
And I had one clarifying question to ask, on Article 20. I want to make sure that my understanding is accurate to this. Because in the introductory paragraph. It says, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but includes new teacher orientation and handbook that is jointly created and instituted in collaboration with the association. But then under D, it says policy handbook and contract. And I want to make sure I'm understanding which handbook is being referenced in the introductory paragraph. Because the district policy handbook is determined by the board,
No.
which
Yeah, so, so.
you're invited to join the policy committee. You
Sure,
have
no,
up to
so
two
the-
teachers,
so
so,
That's language that we already have in the contract. And so
yes.
that's the district policy, policy G on the personnel, all that stuff. We're that, we talked about. We're open on that end for that being made available to people electronically, because we're not giving out those handbooks. Now, that's not we're okay with that. We do want contracts to be distributed to new hires, but that is separate from, I think, like when, I don't have it in here, but when you presented your potential agenda for the new hire orientation,
Mhm.
you were talking about a new employee handbook. And in that opening paragraph, that's what we're talking about, same thing.
Okay,
So
So it'll be a new
if
employee.
we needed to, like, if we could strike handbook and D and call it district policy. Those are two different things,
they are.
so and right now, I mean, that's old language that's already in there, but the primary emphasis of our proposal is on this idea of a new employee handbook that's not all of the policy. So it's not about trying to usurp any of the board's authority for any of that other policy. It would be similar to the way the law says that when the evaluation guidelines that are used have to be worked or designed in collaboration with the union. Like you have an overall evaluation policy that you adopt as a board.
Mm-hmm.
We have a specific evaluation handbook document that is followed. That whenever there's changes to it, we would collaborate on that. That's the same vein that we're looking at.
Okay.
It's like, what are we gonna give? What's the thing that we're gonna hand to or email to, whatever it looks like ultimately, the new hires on that day. You know, we want to work on it. I think that in the agenda that was part, the proposed idea for the orientation. The only thing that's really, well, I should say, one of the things that's different from our proposal is that. We were proposing that, and maybe it's not every mentor, like something we get into, but we were proposing that some of the association reps that are working on implementation of this, they might be there in that morning session too. And like, your proposal, you said mentors show up at 12:30, it's not a proposal, but your idea for the agenda,
Mhm.
mentors show up at 12:30. What we were thinking from our end is that there would be maybe some core folks talking in collaboration with district administration about. All right, how's this agenda gonna go? Here, like, this is, like, in our idea, that agenda moves the conversation forward. But like, our team would be talking, okay, how's this gonna work? Who's gonna do this? Who is this person like? Could we utilize some of this research just to have that part in there? It's not like a hill to die on per se about all of the specifics. It's really just about wanting to be supportive of that handbook and helping that information get across. We still like the idea of the mentors working in the afternoon. That's important, but like, could we alleviate some of the problems that we're addressing here in the contract by having some key people talking with the administrators that are gonna be a part of this, and they're like, okay, who's doing the key distribution conversation? What's that look like in the handbook? Oh, this is what we're gonna put in there.
Mhm.
And like, just to be, building that trust and communication, around that, in that way, so it's. But it doesn't have anything to do with wanting to take any board policy away or deal with any of that stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because the only other time in this article that handbook is mentioned is the district policy handbook.
Yeah.
So I think if we just clarified that it's new employee handbook, that would help in the language.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
I'll connect with Jennifer. I'm thinking one of the things that we may be able to do is to kind of take a look at the kinds of things that have historically been a part of new employee in service. A lot of it is business office based pieces of information. And so, but does it give us the opportunity to be able to understand what everybody believes should be a part of that? And you may say, oh, I didn't realize that what it has been is this. And how do we put in something different, or where else do we make that happen for new people? I
You mean like filling out like W-2 form or insurance forms or things like that, or
it's,
All of that's
Yeah.
done before that.
that's done before that?
But our.
But sometimes they don't even know the questions they don't know,
Yeah.
Yep.
that-
right? So
Yep.
there,
Yeah,
if they're
fire hose
new,
information on that
Yeah.
first morning,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is business stuff, it's who to ask in the office, how the
Yeah.
payroll's gonna work. How to enroll in benefits if you haven't already done it.
Did you like the Red Rover stuff?
Yeah, we
too?
talked about Red Rover.
Yeah.
I don't. I know that we can do things better, we haven't really talked about synergy other than that
That's a
it's
big one.
there.
that's
But
a big one.
in the 3 hours that we
I
have,
know, it's
we
not
couldn't
out.
go through everything, that's why it's such a fast
And that's kind of.
line item piece. But that could be where we switch things and have a small session. Or just rotate through, and somebody goes to technology and talks to them for a while somebody else is talking to payroll. Just change it up a little bit,
Yeah.
it might be better.
I think it's pretty common for people to feel really overwhelmed. They don't know, I just got all this stuff, and so I think that is part of like in our minds, it's like. If the mentors know what's going on in that part of the time too, or at least some liaisons to the mentors. to be able to say, okay, now you've heard a lot about like synergy, but here's what you really need to know in the first weeks of synergy.
There's the three
Like,
things
or
that
you
really
heard all this
matter.
stuff about here, you can go back to that, but I, like, that they can help kind of distill it down to like the priority. Hopefully, and that's,
Yeah, and we
it's
like,
not gonna be perfect, but that's what our idea is, like, how can we help get more precise in some of these areas, so
Yeah.
people don't like.
What do you need to know week one? What do you need to?
Uh-huh.
Back order until week two.
Yep,
a lot of the new employation and orientation has been done by the business office staff, so
Right.
we're sharing the stuff that we know. And giving it to them, and just letting them know who they can come to talk to in the district office for things. Some things have to be done at the buildings that we don't have, so that, I think just making sure that everybody knows on that day when information is being shared, so it can be supported.
And we get that, and that's the whole point of like, we're hoping to help fill in some of those gaps, so it isn't on 100%.
You're like, ask them, go out, get
We want them, but we want everybody to get paid the way they're supposed to get paid, and then be able to open the door too, like,
Yep.
or whatever, like, you know, that's all.
and know where the
Might not
restrooms
be
are,
enough
then
time.
life is good.
I was glad that the building tour was on ramp sort of, so they know where the problem is.
All the important things,
That's my first question as a volunteer.
I think so.
Hey.
Somebody use that.
About 5 minutes.
Thank you.
TA, though, you just recycle.